Hey, welcome to another edition of Inquiring Minds. I am Steve Harper, and with me, as always, is my amazing and just incredible co-host, Donna Carlin. How are you doing, Donna?
I'm fine. You're just going to run out of adjectives, just hi. That's one day you're
Nah,
going to walk into the show and go, hi, this is Donna, my
yeah.
co-host. That's it.
All right, I'll just slide in. Hey, this is Donna. All right, what are we talking about?
What are we talking about today? That's it.
Look, I,
Alrighty.
I read my contract. I understand what my obligations are based on what I'm supposed to do for my co-host. I wouldn't bow like you asked me to initially, but I will certainly laud you with some of the accurate adjectives that you're much deserved to hear.
That is a four hockey puck
For
comment, by
hockey
the way.
pucks, I like.
Just so
Hey,
you
well,
know.
I'm coming back with my own approach. I will throw the Pac-Man at you.
Okay, that's good.
So, what are we talking about today?
Okay, so this is something that I think is apropos considering we're into the new year, and it's one of life's paradoxes.
Yeah.
And that is there will never be enough time. The paradox of that is there will never be a better time. And how do you handle that?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, it's a this is an infinitely interesting topic to discuss. I'm curious how this sort of came about for you to put on the table because I think it's perfect because as we look at okay, we're launching into a new year. We are looking at what we have ahead. And by this point of the year, some of the excitement has worn off a little bit. Now we're kind of back back into okay, what do I do and how do I do it and when will I ever find the time? So I think people start to to begin to struggle about this. So I think the timing about this is perfect, but I'm curious what inspired it.
Well, I mean, seriously, people should still be a little bit enthused. It's January for crying out loud. However, I look at setting intentions, all of the conversations we've had leading up to the new year. And then I look at, you know, where we are in the new year. And what's so funny is when we start saying to people, is it too late to wish you Happy New Year? Because we hadn't spoken to them yet, that kind of conversation. The whole point, though, is last year went by in a blink.
Yeah.
So did the year before and the year before that. And we're having conversations in our household about what do we really want to do? What
Hmm.
do we really want to accomplish? Some people ask me, are you ever going to retire? The answer is no. And the reason being is I still want to do more. I still want to do more in my field, for my field, and with and for my clients. And so the answer is no to that. However, the other side of the coin is when you don't retire, and I saw, this in my father because he never retired. He worked up until about 6 months before he died in his late 80s. And when you don't do that, then you don't have that period of time to get on the road and do more travel and do more of what you had thought you would do once you retired. And is there time to do another book? And is there time to do another book and do 2 or 3 trips over the year and work with clients? And then you find yourself in a place like my brother is right now, having had, retired from surgery, and he's busier than he was even when he was operating. So, you know, being in your 70s for him and not slowing down it's occurring to him. There's never going to be enough time to do my bucket list. There's never going to be enough time, but there's never a better time than when I'm healthy, when I'm energized, when I'm able to contribute to do various things. So that's the paradox. Like, how do you
Yeah.
choose when you want to do so much and you realize time is finite?
Well, I'll use a Donna Carling question back to that paradox, which is
Uh-oh.
when someone says there's not enough time to do it. Well, what if there was enough time to do it? It's a matter of shifting attitude and approach, right? Yes, maybe in the grand scheme of things, you may think, well, maybe I don't have time to take the 2 week RV trip around, the to all the parks and enjoy nature and the outdoors. because I've got so many other competing priorities at work or projects that I've got in the hopper, or I'm writing this next book or whatever it is. But I think really at the end of the day, you have to reshift that perspective and say, okay, how do I make the time to fit it all in? And could I maybe dedicate a day of my 2 week vacation, to writing? Or, I'll take a conference call, if I need to, from the road. But, rather than sit around all day for 8 hours waiting on my 2 hour stand up call with my development team, I could actually do my 2 hour stand up call with my development team while I'm spending the other 6 hours enjoying nature, right? It's a shift in perspective. And I think the problem that people get into is they try and fit it into a box. It has to look, a certain way. It has to,
Yeah.
uh, you know, be organized around a certain, approach. And what if you just shake all that up and say, no, it's kind of interesting we're talking about this, because my wife and I were talking about this recently. It's, we just got back from, a great vacation last quarter that we really hadn't made time for in 25 years, right? Because everything else took a priority until we shifted the perspective and said, well, wait a second, why aren't we the priority? Why aren't we investing in ourselves and our time? And we need that break. And, we come back more refreshed. We come back with more enthusiasm for whatever it is that we're focused on. But you have to ask that question. So what if you do have the time? And what else could you do in order to make the time to do the thing you want to do, to take that time and really invest it in a better approach, a better way, a shift in your attitude, and really in what you want to experience and what you want to accomplish. We talk about these things, right? The questions. What's the experience going to be like? What's the outcomes that we're looking for? And, how has what you've done up to this point really served you in terms of how you're shifting, the time thing? I just don't have the time to do it. Well, that's what you've been doing all this time. Isn't it now time for you to shift that perspective and do things differently and approach it differently, asking a better question, being open to better experiences, and allowing time to work for you, not against you?
We all have the same amount of time. There's no question. Nobody has more time than others. That's it. Part of it is spent sleeping. Part of it is choiceful. What I started doing is actually choosing those vacations and experiences that we want to have, booking it, and everything else fits around it. It's not the
Yeah,
other way around. We don't
that's
fit
right.
in the holiday. We've already booked our holiday for this year, towards the end of the year, to go back to Italy, to a place that we absolutely adore. And we absolutely relinquish control over that time that we're there, other than the last few days, of where we go, what we see, and we leave it in the hands of those who live it and realize that they could give us an incredible experience, and we're just open container to absorb it. It's it's the premise that we live by, that we'll never have enough time to do everything we want. Well, you know what? You have to say no, so you say yes to the right things. And we spoke about that before. When you say yes to something, that means you're saying no to something else. People have a hard time saying no, but what they're doing is saying no when they say yes to something they don't want to be doing, they know they shouldn't be doing, and that is eating up a lot of time. They are saying no. It's just not expressed.
Well, and that's a great point. We're really bad at saying no to other people, but we constantly say no to ourselves, right?
Yes,
So
exactly
shifting
right.
that perspective is a really important element. Just like you go into Italy, or taking any extended time off, it doesn't mean that those priorities have to be completely ignored, or that you have to turn off everything, right? You might be forced to, because you may be in a country that doesn't make it super conducive. But if a client really needed you in a pinch and you were open to it, you could say, I could make the time to have a quick call. I've got 15 minutes. That's it, because I'm back off to enjoy my Italian vacation. But at the end of the day, if it really was that critical, it's where you put your emphasis, your focus, and your priority, I think. And that's the problem. Is I think we have this in the American culture, right? If I just need to get to retirement, right? If I can get to that retirement, I work so hard and do everything, then once I retire, I'll have the time to do these things. And I know what you're saying about never retiring, and I'm the same way because I will always be dabbling and working on something, right? Because that is what is going to keep my brain sharp and my, my physical presence
Yeah.
engaged in the world. But how many of us are just working to, hit that whatever that age is for you, and then magically you've wasted all these times where now I can't, go ride a horse, or I'm never going to be, physically fit to go on that Appalachian Trail hike, or I'm going to not take that Italian vacation because I'm not physically fit to go that far, or all these things that we put off in the short term, thinking that down the way, long term, that, we'll eventually find that time to make it happen. And then all of a sudden you realize, no, it didn't work. So you've just given up so much of your life. And really, at the end of the day, you've given up so much control of your life to other things and other people. And that's where the problem is.
The whole point is, are you honoring yourself in relation to time? That's it.
Yep.
Time is a gift. It's a gift that we all have and we're all given. Do we honor it? Do we honor ourselves in how we use it or not? That's the bottom line. Do we
Yep.
allow others to steal time away from us because we haven't learned the way to say no and set boundaries and everything else so that we actually focus on what's good for us? I think that the younger generation is better at that than we are. I think we are
Mm.
so used to being able to accommodate others that we don't look at in the mirror and do the same thing for ourselves. So the question is, what would be a better time, truthfully? And
Yep.
how do you know when you say it's not a good time? Fine. What would be a better time? And how are you sure about that? Because when that time comes, how do you know that something else isn't going to happen that you're going to cancel and cancel and cancel and delay and then hit yourself, over the head with a 2x4 because, there might be another pandemic or
Right.
you might have health issues or whatever it is that stops you from actually doing what you always wanted to do. And the same thing with growing and being more of who you are and getting out into the world and contributing. Now's the time. Don't wait for
Yep.
things to be perfect. Things are never perfect. And if they are perfect, then there's nothing after perfection, and that sucks. So just dive in and be yourself, be all of who you are, and actually look up to the world and say, you know what? I'm just as important as everything and everyone else. Not being self centered, but I'm just as important.
Yeah. I like that. I mean, I'd even say to a certain degree, you almost have to be a little selfish and say I'm more important in some respects because this is me, and what I do and how I contribute to the world is sort of dependent on having these experiences, making the time for these things to invest in myself, to really be more of what I want others to, to be able to benefit from, to be able to give more to other people. I was thinking about what you said, we talked about a couple episodes ago, and paraphrasing, Henry Ford's quote, right? If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. At
You're
the end
right.
of the day, this goes back to the time. And, I always tell my coaching clients, if not now, when? And you're if you're not going to make this shift, and this is a perfect time to do it because we're starting a new year, everything's kind of reset, and the opportunity to sort of get into the flow of how you want to live, how you want to work, how you want to operate, and ultimately how you want people to treat you in this new year comes down to you. And if not now, when? And so I think that this is it's a really juicy topic for us to really think about, because this is the time. This is the
Yeah.
time to take control, because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. We're not guaranteed, 2 quarters from now. So, what are you going to do to invest in yourself and stop making the excuses? Stop allowing the world and all outside circumstances to dictate how you live, how you work, and how you operate, and start looking at things a little bit differently. So, I think this is a really, really, really interesting topic. I'm curious about what our our listeners and our viewers think about this one, and how do we shift any perspective here? Do we encourage you to think a little bit outside the box as to how you might approach this a little bit differently in the coming days and months for the upcoming year? So I'm curious. So Donna, how do people get engaged with this? We do know that they need to invest the time to watch this episode and listen to our show, because we love it. But this is yet another opportunity for these folks to take this and really do some deep thinking on this topic, and maybe start some conversations with their loved ones and even their teams back at work about, hey, I'm doing some things a little bit differently this year, and here's why. And so how can they share their experience, their feedback, any nuggets of wisdom that they picked out of this episode with us?
So I'm going to quote a friend of mine, Sam Horn, when she says, "Someday is not a day of the week. Keep that in mind."
I love
And
that.
yeah,
That's a good one.
she,
That's a really good one.
she's terrific. Join our Facebook group. That is the best way. I mean, you can get us through our websites, ripplecentral.com for Steve and donnacarlin.com for me. However, the conversations could happen in the best possible way with other people who listen to our shows. And they're all posted in our Facebook group. So Inquiring Minds with Donna Carlin and Steve Harper. Join the group. Let us know who you are, a little bit about you, and what your thoughts are. We're getting more um, instant messages or
Yeah.
direct messaging for people to say, could you talk about this? Could you talk about that? Which is fantastic. Keep
Yes.
those coming too. Let us know what you did with this. Did you have that conversation with somebody else? And what did it bring to the table for you? It would be wonderful.
Yes, it would. Well, this was another great topic, a really, thought-provoking one that I am going to look at myself and figure out how to start reinvesting in myself. I know you plan to do the same, and so I'm so grateful for these opportunities to have these conversations, Donna. And we'll be back again very soon with another episode of Inquiring Minds. But until then, Donna, have a fantastic day and go control your time the way you want to control it.
You too.